The crystal chandelier above our family's Christmas dinner table cast perfect light on everyone's accomplishments. Everyone's except mine, apparently. So Marcus just closed a 7-figure real estate deal in Manhattan, my mother announced, beaming at my older brother. Tell everyone about the penthouse sale, honey. Marcus leaned back in his chair, wine glass in hand, looking every bit the successful real estate mogul our parents had always wanted. The commission alone was enough to buy that lake house I've been eyeing. Nothing major. Nothing major, Dad repeated with pride. That's my son. Meanwhile, Rebecca. He turned to my younger sister, his smile just as wide. Your marketing campaign for that luxury car brand is everywhere. I saw the billboard on 5th Avenue. Rebecca tucked her perfectly highlighted hair behind her ear. The campaign went viral. We're projecting a 40% increase in their quarterly sales. The client wants to double our contract. Incredible, Mom gushed. Both of you are just thriving. We're so proud. I continued cutting my prime rib into small, precise pieces. And Sarah, Dad's voice changed, the pride evaporating. You're still, what was it? An office assistant. Administrative assistant, I corrected quietly. Right. He waved his hand dismissively. Still answering phones and making coffee? How long has it been now? 5 years. 6, Mom corrected with a sigh. 6 years since college. I thought that business degree would lead somewhere, Sarah. Marcus smirked. To be fair, someone has to answer those phones. Not everyone can close million-dollar deals. Rebecca giggled into her wine glass. Remember when Sarah said she wanted to climb the corporate ladder? I guess she's still on the first rung. At least she has a job, Mom said, as if this was the most generous compliment she could muster. Though I worry about her future. Administrative work doesn't exactly scream career advancement. I took a sip of water, saying nothing. What company is it again? My Aunt Linda asked from across the table. Some tech startup? Technova Solutions, I replied. Never heard of it, Uncle Robert declared. Is it even a real company? These little startups pop up and disappear every day. It's real, I said simply. Well, they must not pay much if you're still in that tiny apartment, Marcus added. My assistant makes decent money and even she has a better place than yours. Your assistant? I asked calmly. Yeah, my administrative assistant at the real estate firm. She's great, but you know it's an entry-level position. She's 22, fresh out of college. Kind of expected at that age. He paused meaningfully. You're 31, Sarah. The table went uncomfortably silent for a moment. Maybe you should consider going back to school, Mom suggested. Get an MBA or something. Give yourself better options than just answering phones. I'm content with my position, I said, taking another bite of my dinner. Dad shook his head. Content. That's the problem with your generation. You settle for content, instead of striving for excellence. Look at your brother and sister. They're not content. They're hungry for success. I'm plenty successful, I replied quietly. Rebecca burst out laughing. Successful? Sarah, you're an office assistant. That's literally the definition of not successful. No offense. None taken, I said, meeting her eyes steadily. I just don't understand what happened, Mom continued, her voice dripping with disappointment. You were so bright in school. Straight A's, scholarships, leadership positions. We thought you'd be running a company by now, not running errands for whoever your boss is. What is your boss's name? Aunt Linda asked. My direct supervisor is Christine Liu, the Chief Operations Officer, I answered. See, you don't even report to the CEO, Marcus pointed out. You're like what for levels down? 5. Something like that, I agreed. Uncle Robert leaned forward. Here's some advice, Sarah, from someone who's been in business for 30 years. You need to be more aggressive. Take initiative. Make yourself visible. Network. Right now you're invisible. Just another face in the office. I appreciate the advice, I said politely. Do you even get benefits? Rebecca asked. Like real benefits? Or is it one of those situations where they classify you as a contractor to avoid paying for healthcare? I have excellent benefits, I replied. Well, that's something, Mom said with another sigh. Though benefits don't exactly make up for lack of career progression. When I was your age, I was already a senior manager at the hospital. Different times, Dad added. But still, Sarah, your mother has a point. 6 years and no promotion? That's concerning. Have you thought about applying elsewhere? Maybe a bigger company where there's actual room for growth. I like where I am, I said. Marcus laughed. Of course you do. Why aim higher when you can stay comfortable in mediocrity? Marcus, that's harsh, Mom chided, though she didn't exactly disagree. But honey, he's not entirely wrong. You seem to have given up on ambition. What happened to the Sarah who wanted to change the world? I'm still that Sarah, I replied calmly. Really? Rebecca challenged. Because from where I'm sitting, you're the Sarah who fetches coffee and schedules meetings for people who actually make decisions. My phone buzzed on the table. I glanced down at the screen. The notification was marked urgent with 3 red flags. See, even on Christmas she's getting work calls, Dad noted with disapproval. They don't even respect your time off. That's what happens when you're expendable. I read the message. Emergency board meeting required. Critical investor situation. Need CO approval to proceed. All board members alerted. Is everything okay? Mom asked, noticing my screen. Just work, I said, setting the phone face down. On Christmas. Aunt Linda tooted. That's terrible. They shouldn't be bothering you on a holiday. What kind of company treats their employees like that? Can't you just ignore it? Rebecca suggested. I mean, you're an assistant. It's not like the company will collapse without you. My phone buzzed again. Then again. The notifications were coming rapidly now. Sarah, seriously, either turn that off or deal with it, Marcus complained. It's Christmas dinner. I picked up my phone and read the new messages. Christine Liu, we have a situation. The Patterson Investment Group is threatening to pull $400 million in funding. They're demanding immediate meeting with decision makers. James Chin, CFO, this could sink us. We need executive approval now. David Reynolds, board chair, where's final authority on this? We have 30 minutes before Patterson walks. Sorry, I said, standing from the table. I need to take this. Of course you do, Dad muttered. Can't even enjoy Christmas dinner without your boss snapping their fingers. I walked into the study, closing the door behind me. I quickly typed, conference call in 5 minutes. I'll join from here. The response was immediate. Thank God. We're dead without you. When I returned to the dining room 3 minutes later, everyone was deep in conversation about Rebecca's upcoming campaign for a luxury watch brand. All handled? Mom asked dismissively. Getting there, I replied. Must be nice to be so important that work can't function without you, Marcus said sarcastically. Oh wait, you're an assistant. They probably just needed you to schedule the meeting where actual executives will solve the problem. Something like that, I agreed, checking my watch. My phone rang. The screen showed, Christine Liu, executive line. I'm so sorry, I said to the table. I need to take this. For God's sake, Sarah, Dad snapped. Tell them you're having Christmas dinner with your family. Show some backbone. I answered the phone as I walked back toward the study. Sarah Chin speaking. Sarah, thank God. Christine's voice was stressed. Patterson is on the line with the entire board. They're threatening to pull all funding unless we can guarantee executive commitment to their revised terms. We need CEO authority to negotiate. Can you join the call? Conference me in, I said calmly. Joining now. The line clicked and suddenly I could hear multiple voices talking over each other in panic. Contractual obligations that we can't just ignore. Patterson has every right to pull funding if we don't. This will bankrupt us. We need the CEO to authorize. Gentlemen, I said clearly. This is Sarah Chin. Someone catch me up quickly. David Reynolds, the board chairman, spoke first. Sarah, Patterson Investment Group invested $400 million in our Series C funding round 9 months ago. They're now claiming we violated terms of the agreement by expanding into European markets without board consultation. They want to pull all funding immediately unless we can provide executive assurance that we'll adhere to their revised investment terms. What are their revised terms? I asked. 20% equity increase in their favor, 2 additional board seats, and veto power over all international expansion, Christine said. It's insane. We'd be giving them effective control of the company. And if we refuse? I asked. They pull funding, we lose $400 million, our valuation crashes, And we'll likely have to lay off 60% of staff, James Chin, our CFO, answered grimly. We'd be finished. Who am I speaking to from Patterson? I inquired. This is Gregory Patterson himself. A cold voice entered the call. And I'm tired of waiting. I gave you 30 minutes to get your CEO on this call. It's been 28. Where's your chief executive? Or does Technova not take its obligations seriously? I was still in my parents' study. Through the door I could hear my family laughing about something. Mr. Patterson, I said calmly. I'm sorry for the confusion. I am the CEO of Technova Solutions. The line went completely silent. Excuse me, Patterson finally said. I'm Sarah Chin, founder and chief executive officer of Technova Solutions. I've been CEO since I founded the company 6 years ago. I'm here to discuss your concerns. This is some kind of joke, Patterson said, but his voice had lost its edge. David, please confirm for Mr. Patterson, I said. David Reynolds cleared his throat. Mr. Patterson, I can confirm that Sarah Chin is indeed our founder and CEO. She's been in that position since the company's inception. Another long silence. You, Patterson seemed to be struggling. We've been negotiating with Christine Liu for months. We were told she was CEO. We assumed. You assumed Christine reported to someone else, I finished. She does. She reports to me. As do all our C-suite executives and board members. But you, when we did our due diligence, you saw that I maintain a relatively low public profile, I said. I prefer it that way. It allows me to focus on building the company rather than managing my personal brand. Now, regarding your concerns about European expansion. Wait, Patterson interrupted. You're telling me that the founder and CEO of a $2.3 billion company has been sitting in on investor meetings, and we didn't know it? I attended every meeting regarding your investment, Mr. Patterson. I was introduced as Sarah Chin. You never asked my title. Through the phone, I could hear someone else in Patterson's office saying something urgently. My team is pulling up your information now, Patterson said, his tone completely different. Forbes listed you as one of the top 30 under 35 entrepreneurs 3 years running. Tech Business Magazine called you the most influential CEO in enterprise software. You've been keynote speaker at 4 major tech conferences. How did we miss this? You didn't miss it, I replied. You just assumed someone with my background couldn't possibly be an administrative presence in meetings. Confirmation bias is a powerful thing. Back in the dining room, I heard my father's voice rise. Where did Sarah go again? This is ridiculous, being on call like some kind of servant. Patterson was quiet for a moment. Miss Chin, I owe you an apology. We've been operating under completely false assumptions. The revised terms we proposed were insulting and frankly showed you hadn't done proper research on our company structure or leadership, I said calmly. You threatened to pull $400 million in funding based on a misunderstanding of our governance. That tells me you're not looking at data, you're looking at assumptions. You're absolutely right, Patterson admitted. I apologize. Can we start this conversation over? We can, I said. But first, let me address your concerns about European expansion. We didn't violate any terms of our agreement. Section 7, Clause 3 of our investment contract specifically allows for international expansion into markets with over 100 million potential users, provided we maintain quarterly revenue growth above 15%. We've maintained an average of 23% growth. The European expansion falls entirely within our contractual rights. I need to review the contract, Patterson said. David, please send Mr. Patterson the relevant sections highlighted, I instructed. Mr. Patterson, I suggest you review with your legal team and call me back in 48 hours when you've verified the information. We're happy to continue working with Patterson Investment Group, but not under duress or based on misunderstandings. Miss Chennai, yes, absolutely. Thank you for your patience. Christine, James, David, thank you all for handling this until I could join. We'll reconvene after the holiday. Everyone enjoy your Christmas. I ended the call and stood in the study for a moment, gathering myself. When I walked back into the dining room, dessert had been served. Tiramisu. Finally, Rebecca said. We thought you died in there. Sorry about that, I said, sitting down. Crisis averted. Crisis, Marcus snorted. What kind of crisis could an administrative assistant possibly handle? Did someone need emergency coffee? Something like that, I replied, picking up my dessert fork. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, Dad said, gesturing at me with his spoon. You're at their beck and call 24/7 and for what? A modest salary and zero recognition. You need to find a company that values you, Sarah. I'm quite valued where I am, I said. Mom shook her head sadly. You say that, but honey, if they valued you, you'd have been promoted by now. 6 years as an assistant? That's not value, that's exploitation. My phone buzzed again. Multiple notifications. Christina, you're incredible. Patterson just sent over a formal apology and requested a call with you directly next week. David Reynolds. That was masterful. He had no idea who he was threatening. James Chin. You just saved the company. Merry Christmas, boss. More work emergencies? Rebecca asked mockingly. Let me guess. Someone needs copies made? Just colleagues saying Merry Christmas, I replied. How thoughtful, Aunt Linda said. Though I suppose even bosses can be pleasant on holidays. Does your supervisor appreciate you at least? My supervisor is very appreciative, I confirmed. Marcus leaned forward. Seriously though, Sarah, what's your 5-year plan? You can't answer phones forever. Even if you like the company, don't you want to move up? Become a manager or something? I'm comfortable with my current trajectory, I said. Current trajectory, Dad repeated with disgust. What trajectory? You're stagnant. Static. You're not going anywhere. I disagree, I replied calmly. Then enlighten us, Rebecca challenged. What's this big trajectory we're missing? What's your secret plan for success? I took a bite of tiramisu. I'm content where I am. Content again, Mom sighed. That word. It's like you've given up on dreaming. Uncle Robert jumped in. When I was your age, I was already running my own department. Had 12 people reporting to me. That's success, Sarah. That's ambition. What do you have to show for 6 years? Experience, I answered. Experience as an assistant, Marcus clarified. That's like saying you have 6 years of experience making coffee. It's not impressive. My phone rang again. This time the screen showed Michael Torres' Wall Street Journal. Oh, for heaven's sake, Dad exploded. Turn that thing off. It's Christmas. I should take this, I said quietly. I'll be quick. Of course you will, Rebecca muttered. Can't keep your boss waiting. I stepped into the hallway and answered. Michael, Merry Christmas. Sarah. Sorry to bother you on the holiday. Quick question. I'm running the piece on Technova's Q4 performance tomorrow. Can you confirm the revenue numbers? My sources say you hit $890 million for the quarter, which would put your annual revenue over $3 billion for the first time. That's correct, I confirmed. We'll make the official announcement on the 27th. Incredible. That's what 200% growth from last year. Closer to 220, I said. But let's stick with the conservative estimate for your article. You got it. One more thing. Forbes is finalizing their most powerful women in tech list. They're putting you at number 7. Any comment? I appreciate the recognition, but I'd rather the focus stay on our team's achievements than individual accolades. Classic Sarah Chin, Michael laughed. Always deflecting credit. Okay, I'll let you get back to your holiday. Thanks for confirming. I hung up and returned to the dining room. All done with your work emergency? Mom asked with thinly veiled irritation. Yes, all handled, I replied. Good. Now maybe you can actually participate in family time instead of being at everyone's beck and call. Marcus set down his wine glass. You know what your problem is, Sarah? You have no boundaries. You let work walk all over you. In my field, I make clients wait. I control the relationship. That's power. You're just reactive. Interesting perspective, I said. It's not perspective, it's reality, he insisted. Look at Rebecca and me. We dictate terms. We're in control. You just respond when someone tells you to jump. That's the difference between success and mediocrity. Rebecca nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. I have clients begging to work with me. They know I'm the best, so they wait for my availability. You're the opposite. Available whenever anyone needs you. It's sad. I'm glad you both have that dynamic with your clients, I said neutrally. You could too if you'd just show some initiative. Dad insisted. Stop being so passive. Demand a promotion. Demand a raise. Make them see your value or leave for somewhere that will. I'm appropriately compensated for my role, I assured him. Uncle Robert laughed. Appropriately compensated as an assistant? What's that, maybe $60,000 a year? 70 if you're lucky? Something in that range, I said vaguely. Exactly my point, Dad said triumphantly. Your sister probably makes that in a month with her bonuses. Marcus makes it in a week with his commissions. You're barely scraping by. I manage, I replied. Just managing isn't living, Mom said softly. We want more for you, Sarah. We want you to thrive, not just survive. Aunt Linda reached over and patted my hand. Honey, there's no shame in where you are. But you're 31. Time is running out to establish a real career. Have you thought about going back to school? Or maybe starting over in a different field? I'm happy in my current field, I said. But doing what? Rebecca pressed. Answering phones? Filing paperwork? Sarah, be honest, what do you actually do all day? I manage operations, I replied simply. Marcus nearly spit out his wine. You manage operations? Sarah, you're an administrative assistant. You assist the people who manage operations. There's a difference. I suppose there is, I agreed. My phone buzzed with another notification. This one was from our PR team. Melissa Wong, PR Director CNN, just reached out for comment on the Patterson situation. Should I confirm you personally resolved it or keep it vague? I typed back, keep it vague. Credit the team. More work? Dad asked, exasperated. Just coordinating some communications, I said. On Christmas, Mom repeated, shaking her head. They really don't respect your time at all. Sarah, this is exactly what we're talking about. You deserve better than this. I appreciate your concern, I said. Rebecca's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her eyes widened. Oh my God. What? Aunt Linda asked. I just got a news alert. Technova Solutions posts record Q4 revenue of $890 million, bringing annual total over $3 billion. That's the company you work for, right, Sarah? Yes, I confirmed. Holy shit, Marcus said, pulling out his own phone. A $3 billion company? I thought you said it was some small startup. I never said it was small, I corrected gently. You assumed. Dad was already Googling on his phone. Technova Solutions, leading enterprise software solutions provider, valued at $15 billion. Offices in 18 countries. Over 3,000 employees. He looked up at me confused. This is where you work? Yes, I said. As an administrative assistant? Mom asked incredulously. That's how I identify when I'm not discussing work details, I replied. Rebecca was scrolling rapidly. Sarah, this company is massive. They're publicly traded. They're partnered with Microsoft and Google. How have we never heard of this? You weren't interested enough to ask about specifics, I said calmly. Marcus found something on his phone. His face went pale. There's a photo here from last year's Tech Innovation Summit. Technova CEO Sarah Chin delivers keynote on the future of enterprise AI solutions. He looked up at me. CEO. The entire table went silent. Yes, I said simply. I'm the founder and CEO of Technova Solutions. That's not possible, Dad said. You said you were an administrative assistant. I said I do administrative work, I corrected. Which is true. I administer the entire company. Mom's hand was over her mouth. You've been CEO for 6 years? Since you founded it? Yes. I started Technova 6 months after graduating. We were 3 people working out of my apartment. Now we're over 3,000 employees across 18 countries. Rebecca's hands were shaking as she scrolled. Forbes has you listed as number 7 on their most powerful women in tech list. Your estimated net worth is... She stopped, her voice barely a whisper. It says $2.7 billion. Market valuations fluctuate, I said. But that's approximately correct. Uncle Robert looked like he might faint. You're a billionaire? On paper, I confirmed. Most of it is tied up in company equity. Aunt Linda's voice was tiny. And you just let us, all of us, call you an office assistant? For 6 years. You called me that, I said gently. I simply didn't correct you. Every time you asked about my job, I gave you truthful answers. I do work at Technova. I do handle administrative functions. I do report to Christine Liu on operational matters. She's my COO and I value her input immensely. Everything I told you was accurate. You just made assumptions about what those facts meant. Marcus had found the Wall Street Journal article from earlier this year. Sarah Chin, the quiet revolutionary changing enterprise software. It says here you turned down acquisition offers from both Apple and Amazon worth over $20 billion because you wanted to maintain independence. The offers were flattering, I acknowledged. But we're building something special. I didn't want to give up control. Dad was reading from his phone, his voice stunned. Chen's leadership has been characterized by her unusual management style. She regularly works alongside entry-level employees and maintains an open-door policy that has created one of the highest employee satisfaction ratings in the tech industry. I believe in understanding every aspect of the company, I explained. You can't lead effectively from an ivory tower. Mom's eyes were filled with tears. Sarah, why didn't you tell us? You never asked, I said simply. Every time we had dinner, you talked about Marcus's deals and Rebecca's campaigns. You told me about your achievements. I listened and congratulated you. But you never once asked me to actually explain what I do. You just assumed based on your own biases about what success looks like. Rebecca's face was red. I called you mediocre. I said you had no ambition. You did, I agreed. But I don't measure my worth by your approval. Marcus stood up abruptly, his chair scraping back. This is insane. You let me patronize you about how to succeed in business. I'm in real estate. You run a $15 billion tech company. Your real estate advice is valid for real estate, I said calmly. Different industries operate differently. Aunt Linda's voice trembled. When I told you to be more aggressive and visible, you're literally on the Forbes list. Visibility isn't always power, I replied. Sometimes the most powerful people are the ones working quietly behind the scenes. Dad set down his phone with shaking hands. The emergency call earlier. That wasn't scheduling a meeting. That was a major investor threatening to pull $400 million in funding. I finished. I resolved it. That's what I do. Mom was crying openly now. We've been so cruel to you. Every holiday, every dinner, we've dismissed you and patronized you, and you revealed who you are, I said gently. That's valuable information. Sarah, Rebecca whispered. I'm so sorry. We've been horrible. You've been honest about how you see the world, I corrected. You believe success looks like visibility, recognition, and traditional markers of achievement. That's fine. I believe success looks like building something meaningful and treating people well. We have different values. Marcus sat back down heavily. When I bragged about my assistant making more than you, I was comparing my employee to one of the wealthiest women in tech. Your assistant probably has a lovely apartment, I said kindly. Uncle Robert was still staring at his phone. It says here you've donated over $100 million to educational charities in the last 3 years alone. Education access is important to me, I confirmed. And you drive a Honda, Dad said, his voice hollow. A regular Honda Civic. It's reliable and efficient, I replied. Why would I need something else? Mom wiped her eyes. Your apartment. You said it was tiny. But you could afford. I could afford many things, I interrupted gently. I choose to live modestly because material excess doesn't interest me. My apartment is comfortable. It has everything I need. Rebecca's voice was barely audible. We thought you were a failure. I know, I said. I let you think that because your assessment of my success was never important to my actual success. You measured me by your standards, found me lacking, and felt superior. That told me everything I needed to know about your priorities. Why didn't you just tell us? Marcus demanded. 6 years of letting us mock you. Because telling you would have been about seeking your validation, I explained calmly. I don't need your validation. I never did. I came to family dinners because I wanted to maintain the relationship, not because I needed your approval of my choices. Dad's voice cracked. We've been so wrong about you. You've been exactly who you are, I replied. I accepted that a long time ago. Aunt Linda stood abruptly. I'm sorry, I need a moment. She left the table quickly. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Uncle Robert spoke. The advice I gave you earlier. About being more aggressive and visible. That was advice that works in your industry, I finished. Different contexts require different approaches. There's no single path to success. Mom reached for my hand. Can you forgive us? There's nothing to forgive, I said truthfully. You showed me who you are when you thought I was powerless. That's actually a gift. I know exactly where I stand with each of you. Marcus's voice was hoarse. What does that mean? It means I understand our relationship clearly now, I replied. You respected me when you thought I had power. You dismissed me when you thought I didn't. That tells me your respect is conditional on status, not character. Rebecca started crying. Sarah, please. We made a mistake. A terrible mistake. You made a choice, I corrected gently. Every dinner, every holiday, every phone call. You chose to demean someone you believed was beneath you. Those weren't mistakes. Those were decisions that revealed your values. Dad's face was ashen. So what happens now? I stood up from the table, gathering my coat. Now I go home. I have a board meeting tomorrow to prepare for. We're expanding into 3 new Asian markets and I need to review the proposals. On the day after Christmas? Mom asked weakly. Building a $15 billion company doesn't stop for holidays, I replied. But I make time for family dinners even when they're difficult. That's the difference between us. I show up regardless of whether I'm appreciated. Marcus stood too. Sir, wait. Please. Can we talk about this? We just did, I said calmly. You now know who I am. I've always known who you are. Nothing has actually changed except your awareness. Rebecca blocked my path. You can't just leave like this. I can, I assured her. And I am. Thank you for dinner, Mom. The prime rib was excellent as always. Sarah, Dad started. I'll see you all at Easter, I said, walking toward the door. Assuming you still want me there now that you know I don't need your pity or your approval. As I reached for my coat, my phone rang again. I answered immediately. This is Sarah. Sarah, it's Christine. I know it's late, but I wanted to thank you personally for handling Patterson today. The board is singing your praises. You saved us. We saved us, I corrected. It's a team effort. Enjoy your holiday, Christine. I hung up and turned back to my family who were all standing now watching me. That was my COO, I said. The woman you thought was my boss. She was thanking me for saving the company today. Just so we're clear. Uncle Robert found his voice. Sarah, we owe you an enormous apology. You owe me nothing, I replied. You've given me exactly what I needed. Clarity about who you are when you think no one powerful is watching. I opened the door, pausing to look back at them one last time. Merry Christmas, I said quietly. I hope you all have wonderful success in the new year. I know I will. As I walked to my reliable Honda Civic, I could hear raised voices from inside the house. Arguments, recriminations, desperate attempts to process what had just happened. I sat in my car for a moment, checking my messages. There were dozens, board members, executives, investors, all checking in about the Patterson situation. All treating me with the respect my family had never shown. I started the engine and drove away from the house where I'd spent 6 years being diminished by people who loved status more than substance. My phone rang one more time. Michael Torres from the Wall Street Journal again. Michael, I answered. What can I do for you? Quick follow-up. Patterson Investment Group just released a statement praising your exceptional leadership and clear vision for Technova's future. They're calling you one of the most underestimated CEOs in tech. Any comment? I smiled, thinking of my family's faces when they realized who I'd been all along. Just this. The best leaders are the ones no one sees coming. Success doesn't require an audience, Michael. It just requires doing the work. Perfect. That's going in the headline. Thanks, Sarah. As I drove through the quiet Christmas evening streets, I thought about my family learning to live with the knowledge that they'd dismissed a billionaire CEO as a failure for 6 years. That, I realized, was its own kind of justice. I didn't need them to understand me. I didn't need them to respect me. I just needed them to finally see what had been there all along. Someone who measured success by impact, not approval. And tomorrow I'd go back to building my company, leading my team and changing my industry. With or without my family's belated recognition.